everybody, how are you? I just felt called to pick a couple of cards, so here I am. I haven't picked them yet. I am going to go for a couple of archetype cards, I think, and tarot, and maybe angels and gods and goddesses. And I think the question, you know, I know in the northern hemisphere everybody's going into fall, into autumn, and down here the southern hemisphere we're all going into spring, and I always think of that time as being quite transitory. It's sort of a bit of a transition. You're neither in winter and you're neither in summer, and so I'm just going to see what that energy offers us in terms of reassurance. So let's just let this be a reassuring draw to see where we are collectively, what we need and what we can do just to support ourselves. So just see what's coming up. So let's just pick a few cards. I was playing cards with the fam last night. I had my son rolling on the floor in laughter because sometimes I'm just not on planet Earth, I'm somewhere else. And they were counting the cards and I didn't realise, and I went, why have I got hearts? Are you setting me up? And they were like, oh my God, where have you been? That's the problem, where have I been? Sometimes I don't know where I go. I'm sure every mother out there can relate, every parent. Everybody can probably relate. You'd have to be a parent to be able to relate. Anyway, so where are we in our transition, and what archetypes are kicking up? Ooh. Interesting. We have the Father. Light attribute, talent for creating and supporting life, positive guiding light within a tribal unit. Yeah, that's true. Lovely elders, beautiful elders like Nelson Mandela, you know, Kofi Annan, Barack Obama. Who else springs to mind when I think of a kind of an elder statesman? Sam Neill, the actor. Been watching quite a bit of his Instagram. He's got a lovely energy about him. You know what, the other, just really wise, very gentle, very, very, very grounded. There's no Richard Rohr, who I'm currently studying with. He's another one. Lovely, beautiful elder. Very forgiving, very compassionate. Guide, but don't do all that. Which is what the shadow attribute is. Dictatorial control, abuse of authority. So it's really interesting because it's almost like, well, you know, the classic archetype shadow attribute, and there's quite a few leaders out there currently who look a bit like that, and I'm not going to name names, but you know, that dictatorial, you've got to do it my way or the highway, very kind of bullying behavior. And instead of doing what I love to call eldership, which is the fostering of everybody's gifts and recognizing that you don't have all the answers, but drawing out the wisdom from within each person to find out what role they play in the whole of the tribal unit or within the family. And so it's just a very inclusive energy, the Father. It's a very, understand, my father was a great one. He used to have in his study, he had this chair, which in fact I've got, he had this chair in his study where, you know, you go in for sort of a bit of a counsel session, not counselling session, but a counsel. My father was he wasn't very good at taking his own advice, but he was great at sort of sitting and listening and being very sort of kind and open-hearted really listened. He really listened, and and it's a quality I actually see in my own husband. You know, really listens to the kids, and you know, I think that's such a beautiful quality when you're drawing out gifts, and you're listening and you're making suggestions and you're talking about your own experience and what's worked and what's not worked. It's a very different energy to that very dictatorial. You need to do it this way. If you don't do it this way, it's going to turn out like that. You know, all of that. So it's interesting that that comes up, and I almost get the feeling that if we focus on that beautiful image of what we want to foster within ourselves, our own internal father, you know, do we want him to be Nelson Mandela or Donald Trump? And then really getting a handle on what that voice sounds in your own head, and then trusting that if you can foster and nurture that beautiful fatherly figure within yourself that is accepting no matter what shows up, you know, even if, you know, worst case scenario, something, you know, your child has shot somebody or killed something, that they still go, okay, it's happened. How are we going to manage this from now on in? How are we going to, you know, find forgiveness for the act that we've done, and ask for forgiveness from whose life we've taken? You know, even if it was as extreme as that it just doesn't blow a fuse, that it's so accepting and so generous and compassionate. So can we foster more of that within our lives? And then perhaps the leaders that we're seeing out there are going to be more generous and more open-hearted and more wise. You know, they're going to really have done the work. So that's really interesting that that's coming up, bearing in mind that the US has got obviously election. I just feel I'm slightly at a jaunty angle today. Maybe I need to go a bit like that. So lovely archetype, and yeah, foster that voice in your own head first. And all of you know I love my soul collage, and you know, if you feel called to writing a poem or drawing or creating a collage that embodies those qualities, go for it. Anyway, let's see what we've got out of the tarot deck. Ooh. The Ten of Wands is always overwhelmed. You're just like overwhelmed with the burdens. And I can't help but feel that because it comes with the father wound, can we just talk about the overwhelm that it must feel like when you have been given so much power and so much responsibility, and you have to carry that load, and you get very dictatorial about it, but actually if you share the load and you trust other people, then you don't have to carry it all on your own. And I do feel, you know, to some degree men have been given so much power, and you know, they used to have to be the breadwinners and, you know, disciplinarians, and, you know, go out and, you know, work in government and rule countries and all the rest of it. And you know, I can't help but feel that this is also for me the trauma card, that, you know, they haven't had time to deal with their own sadness, their own stories, their own, you know, scarcity, what they didn't get in their own childhood. They've had to go straight into these very grown-up roles, almost, you know, some of them very emotionally immature, because they've not had that nurturing environment to really fully develop. And so therefore they're out in the world and they're making all these decisions from, you know, like a 5-year-old place, or you know, a 10-year-old place or a teenage boy place, because they've been told to suck it up and they're not allowed to cry, and they've got to be a man. That's so hard. I didn't do that with my own son. I can tell you that's just not what I did at all. Simon and I did not do that at all. We just allowed him to be who he was, and just allow that emotional body to develop. So important. So I do feel this is almost the overwhelm of the responsibility that the father has had to carry. And really that, and also the trauma that role has carried, you know, being the father, whether it be God, whether it be, you know, chairman of the board, or, you know, CEO of the company, or ruler of a country. You know, it's quite, because even if you were a woman and you were doing that role, it's still, that masculine aspect of yourself is still can be very dictatorial. It needs to soften up a bit. Anyway, that was that one. And let's just see what angels and gods and goddesses have got. I've been loving these cards. I've been picking a few myself recently, actually. Really lovely, gorgeous cards. Ooh. Angel of Space Clearing. It's time to clear old negative thoughts and feelings. So in relation to this reading, I just feel that we all need to let go of that very patriarchal energy that has been instilled, nurtured in our own systems, and just cut ties to it. Just let it go. Those thoughts that I always think that energy is, you know, it's very in the mind, it's very in the rational mind, and that's fine. For me, you know, the Nelson Mandelas, they've come out of their rational mind because the circumstances he was in, and so he's become much more heart-centered, and it's almost like, let's just get out of our minds a bit more, and start to inhabit this space, and all the feelings that we have around ourselves and who we are. I mean, I'll be very honest, this morning I woke up and I went, oh, I'm not being productive, because yesterday I spent all day reading a book. Not being productive. Last week I was away with my husband camping, not been doing very much work. You know, oh my God, I need to get going. And then I went, hang on a second. Just before you get going, I want you to go into your study. This is a conversation I had with myself. Get into your study, and I want you to write down what you've done this year. Let me tell you, did that put that voice to bed? Because by the time I sort of looked at everything I've been doing, I went, God. And I was speaking to Simon about it, and I went, oh my God, you know, I was having a bit of a moan to myself. And he went, it's COVID year. You have been so productive. I went, yeah, I think I have actually. So it's those voices, really question them and go, is it true? Do Byron Katie work on it? Just do, is it true? If you don't know Byron Katie's The Work, Google it. So powerful. If you don't know how to run it, contact me, because I can take you through it. But it is so good at sort of unhooking those beliefs from our wiring, and just sort of, you know, dispersing them, letting them go, releasing them. So all of those beliefs that we have around who we are and why we are that way, and, you know, the stories we make up about ourselves because of a circumstance, just press delete, press delete. So it feels like this next sort of time is around just really getting in touch with the qualities we want to see in that masculine aspect of ourselves. I'm just going to grab actually something very quickly. Hang on. Me and my bright orange leggings. Masculine qualities in balance, okay? Making things happen, disciplined, protective, compassionate, empathic, outer directed in general, courageous, powerful, supportive, instructive, steady, ambitious, committed, responsible, endurance, perseverance, entertains many points of view, discriminates, makes distinctions, sets limits, rationally concerned with fairness, truth, operating in linear time, objective, entitled, need for autonomy, freedom, separation, independent, nurturing, sexual, strategic, goal-orientated, desire to create structure. Wow. And when out of balance, it becomes authoritarian, controlling, rigidly adheres to law and order, manipulative, sentimental, emotionally unavailable. I put pushy, demanding, and cold. Yeah, there's some in there that like that I'm not quite so keen on. I really don't like the word entitled. I find it quite triggering personally. Independent, I prefer interdependent, but maybe that's the mix of the masculine and feminine becomes interdependent. I don't know. Strategic, goal orientated. Yeah, very much so. You know, the masculine energy in us is very about boundaries, about protection, about, you know, action, moving forward, you know, plans, all that sort of thing. And I think and that feminine aspect is about, you know, receptivity and comfort and heart and acceptance and lots of things. So anyway, that was interesting. Just thought I'd share that. Anyway, I hope this has served you. Get in touch with that aspect of you. How does that voice sound? Can we make it more loving and compassionate, bearing in mind we've all got our burdens to carry, and therefore can we just give ourselves a bit of slack? And angel of space clearing, which is let's just get rid of this stuff. It doesn't serve us anymore as humanity, and especially if we're wanting to invite in a different way of being, different leaders. We need to do the work ourselves. Simple as that. Sending you lots of love as always.